and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni, and I'm an alignment coach and energy healer. I mostly work with people suffering from chronic pain, but not only. I talk a lot about really well being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well being. This podcast, Healing Conversations for Anything Chronic, is all about spreading the message and the inspiration of healing chronic pain naturally. So, today in the studio with me, I have Valerie Hawkins. Valerie, welcome. It's so lovely to have you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you having me today.
Wonderful. So, let's get started. Tell us something about you.
Well, I'm a neuronutritionist, so I have gone all in on nutrition to help with things, especially chronic pain, similar to what you work on. And it's been a journey my whole life to get here. Haven't always done this, but this is my passion right now.
Amazing. So, really, what brought you into neuronutritionist, and actually, what does it actually mean?
So, what brought me here was my own struggle with health and wellness. So, I started with migraines since I was, I think, 14 or 15 years old. I had migraines like for years and years and years. And then I had high blood pressure, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, like things just started to pile on and pile on and pile on. And I would go see the doctors regularly, and they would always prescribe some medication or something else. And, I changed my diet one day. I think I watched a documentary and I decided to stop eating sugar for added sugar. It was just added sugar. I didn't do anything crazy. I just did added sugar. And within a week, I noticed like massive changes. Migraines were subsiding, energy level was getting better. Like I started to feel like much better. Now I think I supplement, like not knowing I added in like healthier foods and things, but that was like the biggest change. And I think that allowed me to put in better foods into my life. And then that just said like, what's going on? No doctor had ever asked me about like the food I was eating. So I decided to like go all in on nutrition. I started being a health coach because my background is engineering, right? And then I moved on to operating childcare center. So like, nutrition was just like what, like, I thought all food was good. Like I had no idea the impact of food on your health. So I decided to be a health coach. That wasn't enough. I kind of really liked the deep science part of it. So I went and got my master's in nutrition. And that opened me up to understand that, like, all of the massive ways food, lifestyle, environment can really impact your biochemistry at the cellular level, which ultimately impacts your brain health. So I kind of focus on all things that impact your brain health in your gut health, your inflammation, detoxification, anything that will impact how your brain functions for things like chronic pain, especially because of my background with chronic fatigue and migraines, but also like anxiety, depression, neurodegenerative diseases, and things like ADHD.
Mm, right. So, we met some time ago before, before before I invited you to come onto the podcast, and I remember the one thing I remember is obviously you have such a vast knowledge of everything to do with nutrition and of course understanding the brain. And I was thinking to myself, I must make sure that we take it a little bit slower because I, as someone that definitely doesn't understand enough about nutrition, but understand a little bit about chronic conditions, I really want everyone to understand your message because it is so important. And really, I think, like you say, no doctor has asked you about what you eat and probably your lifestyle, but I'm hearing it all the time. All the time, I'm hearing that the doctors don't think that there is food, that there is a connection between food and illnesses or conditions. So I really want today to take this opportunity to really put it all out there and say, actually, you know, never mind about the doctors. Let me introduce you to this idea. So that's the first thing that I really want to make sure that we do. Go very slow and as deep as needed. Um, I just want to ask already. Also, you mentioned the first thing that you've done was cutting out added sugar. So, what is added sugar? Is it just the sugar that you add to your coffee, or is it what is added sugar? Even going to that very first step?
So added sugar is anything that's not naturally in food. So like if you eat a piece of fruit, it's going to have natural sugars in it. So anything that's not natural. And I didn't go too crazy. I just looked at the back of food labels and then
Mm.
looked at the line that said added sugar. That's all I did. What was the added sugar in this? And it was like, okay, there's 4 grams of sugar and added sugar in bread, really? Like, what is happening? So, and I was putting a lot of sugar in my coffee at the time. So I kind of looked at, oh, a teaspoon of sugar. Can I get, oh, maybe I don't like it completely black. So maybe 1 teaspoon I can handle, right? And then I looked at I was drinking I don't know how many sodas a day, and that was a massive amount of sugar for me, not to talk about the chemicals. So I just looked at the one line that said added sugar to not drive myself crazy. So I did
Mm.
start really simple and said, and I picked 20 grams a day. I don't know why I picked 20 grams. I think I probably was above 150 grams of sugar a day easily. So that's massive. So that's all I looked at, not to go crazy and look at all the things because that I didn't want to add, make it too difficult or too stressful. So I
Mm.
just looked at what was on the label.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went to approach and said, you know what? If you eat a whole food, an actual piece of food that doesn't have a ton of ingredients, you can avoid just a lot of the problems that with added sugar, different additive, different chemicals. So then I kind of moved to that. Okay, the labels are too complicated. Everyone's like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Okay, it's going to take forever and a lot of stress again to really undo everything on that label. So I just went with simple foods that just don't have a lot of ingredients in them.
Yeah. And in terms of everything that you've mentioned before, like the headaches, the migraines, the chronic fatigue, and the fibromyalgia, you so how is that everything that you've done, or is it, was it really, how easy, I guess the question is, was for you to realize that you're not suffering from these things anymore, or was there any more to it than really just cutting out on the sugar and processed foods?
Yeah, so that was the start, taking out the sugars, then kind of going to processed foods. And, I kind of backed into it accidentally, I think. Wasn't this is the approach, these are the steps you need to take. So it took me a really, really long time to kind of really feel a lot better. But I did notice massive improvements at first. So it was just, you know, you can get really far just eliminating sugar and processed foods and taking a really good high quality multivitamin to get your any nutrients missing, because some of the foods we eat like magnesium people talk about a lot, our foods are depleted in magnesium, so we just don't get enough of it. So some supplementation is beneficial, so maybe some magnesium, a high quality multi, and that can get people so far in their health, because the sugar and the depletion of nutrients in our food, so a multivitamin, and then just eating whole foods, you can get a lot of stuff done. Now, carbohydrates and other things, that's kind of part of the processed food. So just starting simply was easy for me. And I find that's easiest for clients too. What is it that they need? I probably would take a different approach now. I actually eliminated a lot of meats in my diet because I was choosing the wrong kinds of meats. They weren't um, grass-fed, wild-caught fish. I wasn't eating good high-quality protein, so I kind of eliminated it. But now I would add it back in, and I would probably tell people now to start with protein as the critical thing that you need to increase in your diet. I think the RDA for protein is a number. It's zero 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, but most people don't realize that that's the minimum. That's the minimum amount of protein you should get in your diet. So people should be eating a lot more than the minimum requirement, because protein is a building block for everything in your body, your immune system, enzymes, everyone thinks muscle, your brain health, neurotransmitters. So if you're not getting enough protein, your body won't work right. You'll get sicker more easily. Your brain won't work as well. So I always start with protein, and that often crowds out some of the processed foods and other things. If you start with protein, it also makes you satiate you, so you're not hungry.
So protein. I mean, like you said, there's meats and fish, and so what other type of proteins are there that you would recommend people
Mhm.
use?
Well, I always look for, first of all, if you're choosing a meat, choose organic, grass-fed. Everyone thinks, oh, grass-fed beef, that's the thing to eat. But some people just don't realize that when you eat a piece of meat, like of beef, that's grass-fed versus corn-fed, or just like the other processed stuff that gives, like, it has a lot more omega-3s in the meat that you eat versus omega-6s. So just the eating of a higher quality meat, you're going to get healthier fats that aren't as inflammatory to your body. And it's all about like reducing the inflammation. That's what sugar did. Eliminating sugar reduces the inflammation. So eating foods or different things that have more omega-3s in them to get a better balance, you'll reduce the inflammation. Now, omega-6s aren't all bad. Everyone thinks that omega-6s are bad, but most American diets just need a better balance, right? More omega-3s to bring it more into balance.
So, but okay, so we're thinking about proteins. What, so first of course, I want to ask about. There's a lot of people with vegetarians and vegans and all that kind of stuff. But also, I don't think I understood yet what is the good thing that protein brings specifically that is so important. Why do we start with proteins?
Well, protein is the building block for everything, like your skin, your muscles, your immune system. Like when you look at your everything about your body, it's based on amino acids. So amino acids are like the little parts of protein, for instance, like, as an easy way to say it. So
Yeah.
like your body needs all of these different amino acids to make everything, right? If you don't get protein, like you just like biochemical processes, your body just won't go. So you won't be able to build healthy tissues. You won't be able to build your healthy immune system. You won't be able to build, your hormones won't be able to be built as easily.
Yeah.
Your like neurotransmitters. People think of serotonin, dopamine. Like, there are amino acids, which is part of proteins, that are critical for for serotonin and dopamine. So if you're not getting enough of it, you're going to be like low in serotonin and low in dopamine, and then that's when people start having anxiety and depression. So it's basically, building block for everything in your body. It's like a core nutrient that, like, without protein, you'd have a really hard time having a healthy
So
life.
when if you were going when someone comes to you now, and so is that the first thing that you're looking at to understand what is the level of protein? I don't know if I'm asking the right question, but
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I actually would. I would do a dietary intake and just see like where their protein levels are, right? And if they're having a lot of different conditions, maybe anxiety, depression, even like pain or different things, and their protein is low, that's absolutely something I would look at. It's going to make you stronger, have a lot more energy. It's going to make you have more cognitive clarity and better moods, right? So all of those things are critical. And then look at things that are inflammatory in their diet. That would be like the first two things I would look at, right? So like, are they eating a lot of sugar? Are there other foods or chemicals or other things in their diet that are causing inflammation in their body, in their brain?
so inflammation is the number one, really
Is
the number one thing
Yeah,
that is.
yes.
And so now I want to understand, how is that connected to brain health? I mean, we all the time, like you mentioned, right? We talk about gut health, we talk about the digestive system, but here you are talking about the brain first. What? Tell me why. Tell me how come.
So to have a healthy brain and healthy brain function, you're going to need a really healthy, strong gut. So when I look at neuronutrition, things that really impact your brain function, I look at major body functions like gut health, detoxification, and like your neuroendocrine system. So like gut is like a massive part of like brain health. If you don't have good gut function, and if people will say like hyperpermeability of their gut, meaning like your gut has become so inflamed and so dysregulated that like things that shouldn't be able to get through your gut lining are getting through your gut lining now. And that will cause inflammation in your brain. It could start to cause autoimmunity. It could start to cause, or a piece of a cause of like lots of different things. So like a really healthy gut function is really important piece to primarily reduce or prevent inflammation. And then there are other parts of a healthy gut that help. Your gut will actually produce some serotonin. Your gut will actually produce other healthy things. If you have a good microbiome in your gut, you'll actually produce byproducts that are good for a healthy weight, for really healthy brain function. So like the gut is like critical for everything, and also will like impact your stress levels like through some of the neurotransmitters and other things. So the gut is like one of the most important things to, if you have a healthy gut, it helps to ensure your brain health will also be healthy.
So I know that we talk about the three guts, right? The three brains, even, not the three guts.
Three brains.
The three brains, right?
Three
Yeah,
brains.
the one in the head, the one in the heart, and the one in the gut. And
Yeah,
of course, we're saying that all of them really want to
absolutely.
communicate with each other freely. So what you're saying really is that the brain health really is really depending on the gut health. It won't be able to function properly without
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
a healthy gut.
Yeah. And if you think like, so like I talked about inflammation and some of the other things of having a healthy gut, but also having a healthy gut also means like you're getting out all the nutrients from your foods, right? It's also making sure that toxins that are coming in your body are being expelled in the proper way. So they're not getting through. So a healthy gut helps modulate like things that are going, that you're eating that maybe shouldn't going into your body, like so they can be expelled. And all of the really good healthy nutrients that your body need are getting extracted and pulled into your body. So like there's so many reasons why having that really strong healthy gut is good for your brain and the rest of your body.
Can you reverse any illness or condition by fixing your gut and and the foods that you're eating?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that you are actually healing. I think I practice medical nutrition therapy. So you can actually reverse, prevent, reduce. And some people will say like they no longer have symptoms of the
Mhm.
condition that they have as well. So absolutely. Like, so autoimmune, like most chronic conditions that people have, you can really have like a massive impact on that condition with the food you eat, a really healthy gut. The other part I also say detoxification, make sure your body can detoxify the bad things. Oxidative stress is not great for your brain or other parts of your body either. But being able to like get rid of all the bad things, and your body does that naturally. But we're bombarded with so many other things. Sometimes like your body needs a little extra help. But quite frankly, for the most part, most people don't have a really great detoxification system for their body, right? So like their liver might be not functioning optimally. Like you might be very constipated. That's like the very first thing that you look for as far as your body will start to reabsorb the toxins it's trying to get rid of with
Is that
constipation.
what constipation is?
Constipation is just like it's hard, but like when you are constipated, like your gut will start like it will
So
go back into
using the toxins that it's trying
yeah,
to get
that's
rid of.
trying to street. Yeah. So that's why, having a really gut, really good bowel function, uh, really being able to like extract everything like naturally. So your liver, your lymph system, your gut, your kidneys, you want all of that like working really well. Uh, making sure like part of detoxification without getting too detailed, like, well, is getting rid of all the oxidative stress by the normal biochemical process in your body. So everyone has your body creates oxidative stress every day. But like the body's designed to get rid of that. But sometimes people, those pathways aren't working that great. Like I said, due to their liver or something else. So if you want to make sure like all of those body systems that impact detoxification and you're getting all the nutrients that your body needs to like get rid of maybe some extra oxidative stress you might be having is like working really well. So I say the gut and then detoxification, oxidation are like really key areas to like really focus on. And then like getting all the nutrients in would be the third to make sure.
So I guess I have a few more questions.
Absolutely.
Because of course some people might eat very well, but then they have constant exposure to stress.
Yes, that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that? Would that, yeah, because I guess eating, I guess what you're saying is that when you're eating better, when you're eating the right things and you know cutting down on the inflammation and stuff, maybe you don't feel the stress in the same way that you do otherwise. Is that fair to say?
Well, I would say eating the right way reduces lots of stressors on your body.
Okay.
It will reduce the inflammation. It will reduce, maybe you have nutrient deficiencies. That's a stressor on your body. Blood sugar dysregulation, that's a stressor on your body. So it will reduce other stressors on your body. And depending what's going on for you, it could also impact some of the neurotransmitters in your brain, which will help you be able to handle stress or like not have as much stress as you are. However, I personally absolutely believe that like you really like stress is a major thing that I work on in my clinical practice, because like you can work on it from the biochemistry and the food part of it. Like that's like really one way to focus on it. But if you're not also working on it from like your thoughts and your beliefs and like how that's triggering fear and changing your biochemistry, because stress, outside stressors in your life can actually change your biochemistry. So if you're dealing with stress all the time, you know, you're not going to have the right blood flow to your stomach. So you're not going to be able to absorb all the nutrients just because you're in that stress state.
Yeah.
You know, it's also your liver is not going to work. So I think that, depending on the stress state, your gut might only work 10%. I think your liver might only work 20% as efficiently if you're in a stress state, which is great if you're running from a lion, right? Like that's what you want. But everybody, we're all living in a world where like we're always in that state of stress. And that's where I think like that's critically important to be able to get your body to a state where it can actually naturally heal. Because when you're not in that, when you're in that state, like your body's like directing resources to other areas so you can survive the moment, but it's directing it away from other areas that's going to create a vital and healthy life, like long term.
So what you're saying is that when you look at the diet, you start by the proteins and the sugars and the inflammation, but actually we really do need to look at the stress and the environment, the mental, emotional environment that the person is, you know, living in. So then we have to fix that first.
Yeah,
Or
and I think if you
really,
don't address both of them,
yeah,
like there will be a problem. So I think if you're just looking at purely the nutrition side, but they're not addressing the fact that this person is in chronic stress, maybe they've had some trauma in their past and that's like triggering them all the time, or just like the normal stressful life, you're not addressing that, like it's going to be hard for a person to heal, to even if they're eating perfectly.
yeah.
Right. So, but at the same time, if they're completely relaxed and they've dealt with all the stress, but they're not eating really well, like that's going to be a problem as well. So you kind of want to look at both areas and kind of identify what's going to be the biggest lever to start with for this person.
So what are some tips or advice that you can give people that do experience a lot of stress? And of course, I understand that when you are going through chronic conditions, there is a lot of stress that is kind of self-generated, even because of everything that people are going through. So it doesn't have to be, you know, the manager or whatever, you know, externally. It can also be what we bring in. So what are some ways that you help people to reduce the stress?
Yeah, so I work a lot with nervous system regulation, and basically like two parts. One is how can your thoughts, how are your thoughts impacting your stress level? Most people don't realize like they're stressed and like they're having these reactions, but they have to like stop a minute and look like, okay, what were the thoughts, what were the beliefs happening that
Mm.
caused that stress. Like you might have a chronic condition and something, like I dealt with this a lot with migraines. So like the thought of a migraine, like if this activity might give me a migraine, like all of these things in the world might trigger a migraine. For me, laying down might trigger a migraine in the past, so like even the thought of going to bed stressed me. Right.
Mm.
So I didn't like think, I was like, oh, because I started thinking, like, if I go to bed, I'm going to have what if I wake up with a migraine? So all these thoughts were looping in my head as far as like, okay, so that I was creating my own stress before the migraine even happened.
Yeah.
Right. So basically kind of look at that gap. What are you thinking about? Like when, and back into it. If you're feeling really stressed or something happened and you feel like you're really in a dysregulated stress state, what's going on? Okay, did something just happen? Like, what were your thoughts about that thing? And kind of like reverse it. So it's kind of like, okay, is thinking about this right now really going to trigger a migraine? Like, is the stress that I'm doing to myself right now, is that compounding the migraine that I might have later? So really being able to calm my nervous system, because that dysregulated nervous system is going to increase the cortisol and other things in my body, which likely could be a factor to why I was getting the migraine in the first place.
Yeah. And so I want to ask, again, going back to what you said at the beginning, about the brain health. So of course, I come across a lot of people, with Parkinson's or dementia or this kind of conditions. What can we say about these conditions? How does the food, changing the foods, changing the stress as well, of course, how would that help? And would it heal, reduce, or what? How would these kind of changes help people with Parkinson's or dementia?
Yeah, so there's lots of interesting studies on Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, especially when it comes to blood sugar dysregulation. And what it's really coming down to is you're looking at the cellular level, what is going on in the brain. So you want to optimize how your cells are functioning, and your cells have mitochondria, which is like the powerhouse, the energy source for like each little cell for like your whole body. So people talk about Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes and things like that, because there is a dysfunction or dysregulation at the cellular level. And there's lots of studies that are suggesting that that's one of the primary causes of Alzheimer's, because you have cellular function. So you can't get the glucose. You can't get the fuel into your cells properly. Even if you do get the fuel into your cells, something else might be going on because you're missing other nutrients, and so your body can't run the biochemical processes to be able to generate the energy. You might have cell wall. Your cell wall might have some defect. So really looking at that cell and looking at a cellular level, like how to optimize that. And that comes down to food. One, you want inflammatory foods. You don't want inflammatory foods to really attack that cell and attack the membrane of the cell. And then you want to do all of the foods that really create the energy. Start with protein. You want your fuel sources, which could be glucose or fats. And then you want all of them. There's micronutrients that are critical to making all these processes go. So, B vitamins are critical. Something called L-carnitine is critical to make sure your body can use fat as a fuel source in the cells. Things like CoQ10, lipoic acid. There's lots of nutrients that are in food. You can also supplement if you need more therapy for that, to really make sure your cells are operating optimally. And so the blood sugar dysregulation is basically your body can't get the glucose into your cells properly, right? So so you want to optimize that as much as possible. And food does that significantly, right? You're not getting the right nutrients. I mean, you can't supplement completely. You need actual food, right? And then you kind of fill the gaps with supplements.
So what you're saying is that even though the cells, when you are diagnosed with dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, even though you recognize that the cells are not healthy. Sorry, I need to get some water. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. Even though they're not healthy with food, you can actually reverse the condition because cells, of course, they change and replace all the time, right? So it's basically you're changing the memory of the cells. You're teaching them something new. You are able to bring health back into a system that is actually
Mhm.
not doing so well.
It can get like a lot more detailed than that, but like that's the basics of it. You want to like feed the cells like what it needs for optimal cell membrane, for optimal cell functioning inside, so it can make the energy that the cells need for your brain to operate. So that's part of it. Like so, and then if you have lots of cells that aren't operating well, like there's ways to um like so naturally your body will like kill off those cells. Like a cell stops working, it kills them off, right? And then you have new cells, right? So that's
Mm.
like the natural process. But the problem is a lot of people that's not working for them. So like you really want your body in a state where it can heal and do all those things optimally and without the proper nutrition, without reducing the stress, reducing some other lifestyle factors, like that's will significantly impact those cells and in turn impact your brain. Now, for other disorders like or diseases like Parkinson's or maybe anxiety or mood, there are other biochemical processes in addition to the cells that make the neurotransmitters. So you also want all the nutrients to be able to make those processes go. So if you have, say, you're getting plenty of protein in, so you have the amino acids to make the neurotransmitters, but then you're missing another micronutrient that might help that pathway, then you might have still have low serotonin or low dopamine.
So you mentioned serotonin and dopamine a few times already. Help me understand a little bit more about why is it important for the conversation? What is it about the serotonin or dopamine that is so helpful to when it's regulated or in the right kind of levels to the system?
Right. So I talked a lot about like low micronutrients, so like low levels, but also just way too high levels are a problem also. So serotonin, dopamine, even like things like GABA, that like dysregulation there will make you very stressed. So you have like super high GABA, you might be like super tired all the time, like very low. So they might make you very anxious, or depending on your level, you might be very tired, or you might have like lots of ruminating thoughts. Like your brain is just like overreactive to everything, just because of like how low, if it's too low or too high. So you want to look at someone like their symptoms. You can do, there's testing you can do to kind of see what their levels are, and then you can notice, say, okay, and then look at their diet. You can do micronutrient testing to see what their levels are in their body, and then adjust that with food, maybe some supplements to really feed those areas well. So serotonin and dopamine, like so Parkinson's disease, that's very low dopamine, right? And very low dopamine in that area like causes all kinds of things, mood and physiologically. So serotonin, dopamine, GABA, all the neurotransmitters like kind of make like, I say that's how you feel, like how it makes you feel well, whether you feel anxious or tired or nervous or like all these different feelings you might have. Possibly it's impacted by how your nutrition is supporting or not supporting these neurotransmitters. Now, your thoughts and beliefs can also impact these same neurotransmitters. So,
Mm.
addressing it from both ways. So, someone might be going to a therapist or a psychiatrist, and like they are things are going well, but that there's room for improvement, or they're moving slowly, and possibly by just changing their diet, they can get much better outcomes from their therapy sessions, because they're not having to work at such an uphill battle for some of the anxiety or depression or other things that are happening for them.
What I mean, you mentioned, of course, like we said, the protein and the sugars as something to look at generally for whenever there's health situation or anyway at all, or anyone that wants to improve anything really. But what is the first thing that you would look at when you come to look at things like the more emotional or mental, anxiety, depression, burnout, all of these things? What is the first thing that you would look at there to see that reducing that would help come out of these situations.
So for me, I would take a two-prong approach. So looking at stressors in their life, like all of the stressors, whether it be chemical, emotional, or nutrient, right? Looking at the stressors, because your body needs to be in that state where it can heal, especially if it has like a chronic situation. So kind of look at that. And then nervous system regulation is a big part of that, to get your body in that healing state. Then the first thing I would do is look at what's going on with their protein, right? So even if someone's getting a good amount of protein in, there's all kind of things that can happen biochemically in your body. So there might be a need to supplement or try supplementation with specific amino acids that are parts of protein that really target like serotonin or dopamine to help with anxiety, depression, and supplement with those specific nutrients to really make an impact. And most people, like if you supplement, say, with an amino acid for like a month or two, sometimes a little bit longer, they will actually self-regulate like off the nutrient. They'll start to feel better and not really need it because their body started to do the biochemical process that it need on its own. So basically I want to give someone a little boost, right? To kind of like give them some relief at first while we're working on maybe a gut health protocol that might take a little bit longer to see effects. But meantime, you can give someone some specific amino acids or some other things to really help their anxiety or depression while you're working on other things so they have long-term relief.
Yeah. So I guess you will need to, when you look at when someone comes to you first time, it will I guess depend on what they're suffering from to decide what to do first. Like I guess if it's someone with cancer, you would want to give them energy providing energy creating foods rather than maybe something else. Is that true, or would you say that you start with everything on the same level?
Well, no, I would kind of look at what this person needs. And there's a pretty extensive intake for all clients. To look at what are they eating, what their lifestyle, what's been happened in the past, have they had lots of antibiotics, what medications are they on? So it's a very, very extensive intake to kind of assess like where they are and like how their body systems are functioning. And from that, you kind of look at like what are the biggest levers for this person that can impact them. Someone might have a lot of neurotransmitter brain health issues. Someone might have a lot of allergies or food sensitivities, and that's an indicator that there's some gut issues, even if they think they have gut issues, like traditional gut issues. So kind of looking at like what is it for this person. Maybe the person has cancer, but maybe they get sick a lot, so you really have to support their immune system more so and energy. Like you'd always want to work on making sure your cells and your energy and optimizing that, but there might be some other things going on hormonally or with food sensitivities. Like someone has like a lot of food sensitivities, that might be an indicator they have like a lot of gut hyperpermeability. So like things are getting through the gut that shouldn't be. So now this person is highly sensitive to all of these foods. Now you would start with the food elimination diet, fix their gut, and then surprisingly, like if you give them those same foods, they're no longer sensitive to them. Now that's not a severe allergic reaction that won't happen the same way, but food sensitivities, that's quite typical, that you can introduce foods back into their diet. And for the most part, a good amount of them, they'll be able to eat again.
Yeah.
So it depends on the person, right? So we kind of figure out what's their biggest lever, right? What's going to give this person the biggest relief first, and then work through the different body systems.
Yeah. I think this conversation is very important, right? I mean, it really that any ailment, anything that is going on, there's a way to fix it in a sense, and it's not going to go into surgeries and tablets and all of that. It's actually finding the natural way of doing things. But something that is, okay, when I some time ago, I was like, I mean, okay, I'll go back. So I always, talking about diets and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm not going on diets. I'm fed up with it. I don't like losing some weight and then, 5 months later I put everything, with extras. I'm not into that. I just want to, eat properly. I want to change my eating habits. And so I by myself started to cut down on some things and changing my foods. Yeah, sugars was the first thing that went. But I wouldn't lose. I didn't lose weight. It was it was like what is going on? And then it made me feel very fed up. Then I did this blood test, intolerance test thing that we can do, and then I saw that a lot of the things that I considered healthy, which are probably people do consider healthy, they're not right for me because of this intolerance.
Yeah.
So, like, ginger and peas and, sweet corn and I don't know, some others like that. I was like, so it made so much sense that actually, why I wasn't losing the weight, because I guess there was all this, little war going on inside of me whenever I was eating these foods, and I, ate them quite happily. Um, so it does make, bring me that question of how do we supposed to know what is the right foods for us? What, I mean, some people, of course, go and do this intolerance test. I definitely recommend it. But how do you know? I mean, does it basically mean that we always have to go and work with a nutritionist of some sort? And even then, you have so many different types, and sometimes you notice that different people say different things. How do we make sense out of all of this to know what is right for us?
Yeah. Well, at first, I would say, like, if you don't want to go see a provider, like a nutritionist or a doctor, like, kind of, if we could tune into our own bodies and really listen to what our bodies are saying, I think you'd be able to know. I think back to when I had migraines, like when I was much younger, like I would try different foods. I was like, do I need, like, I didn't know anything about nutrition, but I was like, I think I need more protein. I think I need carbs. But what I would do is I would eat, think I need protein, but get rid of this headache. So I would eat chicken nuggets, right? I would think I need more carbs, so I eat French fries. So I think my body somehow knew, like, you need something. It was looking for something like supportive. So I knew I needed to eat something, but I was picking absolutely the wrong things.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in tune enough to know at that time, like, this, like, I need something, but my body wasn't in tune with all of the confusion it was having with the foods that I was eating, like, exactly what I needed. So so I think I was reaching out for the right area and I was picking all the wrong things. So so I think sometimes if you could get in touch with, like how do you feel? Like, maybe do a food and mood journal, right? And start documenting. It could be just a picture of the food. You don't have to go too crazy. Like, I ate this and this is how I feel. This is how I feel 2 days later, because sometimes the reaction is not the same day. It might be a day or two later, the reaction to the food. So if you tune in to kind of start noticing, like, that might be helpful.
Yeah.
If you go to a practitioner, you could just let them know, like, I don't want to do testing. That testing can get expensive. So, but there's all sorts of things a practitioner can look at to see if you have some deficiencies or some reactions based on, like, lots of questions they ask you. They'll probably send you a lot of questions about, like, your health. They'll ask you questions about your skin and your hair and different things to see if you have, like, it might be an indication that, oh, maybe, like, there's a thyroid something going on. Maybe there is these nutrition deficiencies. Oh, that might be anemia. And that combined with other pieces of information that they tell you about, or other things like on, like, traditional blood tests that they might have, you can kind of put a picture together as this is where to go if you're not going to do testing. But so if you don't know what your food sensitivities are, but you're thinking there's something, a gut health protocol, someone might call it an elimination diet, or a 5R approach, to really improve your gut. Because once you fix the gut and you remove all of the typical things, you won't have that. But the interesting thing for you is ginger might be something that a practitioner would give someone as far as, like, a gut healing protocol to help. right? Because ginger is like so helpful. But if your gut was hyperpermeable, and say, for instance, if you ate quite a bit of ginger in your diet, like you'll tend to become sensitive to those things. I think there was a case study, and there was a client who, like, I think the mother gave the child like blueberries all the time, and after a while, the child had a food sensitivity, not an allergy to blueberries, and that showed up super high on the test. It was because the child had hyperpermeability of the gut, things that got through shouldn't. They were eating so many blueberries, like some of those that indicator got through, and then they had a food sensitivity. So heal the gut, then you might be able to try your ginger again. So, it's
Yes.
kind of like you could just do the protocol and heal the gut and then let everything fix itself, or you can get testing to see specifically, because you healed your gut, and maybe you got rid of the ginger and you got rid of all of the things, but if their gut's still not healed, like other sensitivities might start.
Yeah, and I think that's very interesting. That's definitely something that I'm taking away from this conversation. That yes, you can heal your gut. You can reverse symptoms. You can reverse things, and it doesn't have to be crazy. With some guidance, you can.
Yeah, and you
But
would just take it at the client's pace. Like, what can they tolerate? You have to meet the person like where they're at,
yeah,
versus like I could put together this like amazing protocol to heal your gut and everything else, but if it's a protocol that you won't follow, it's useless.
there's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would like to hear about some success stories, and of course, if you can, anything that is, a change or reversible or reduction of chronic conditions. Really, anything you can share about with one of your clients.
Sure. So most any client that has a condition, if they follow the protocols and you get them to continue, like they will have some reduction or reversal in anything that they're having. So I've dealt a lot with anxiety and depression, have clients with migraines, and just by making simple changes for them, that's based on what they need, you can see traumatic changes. So, like, I have one client that had um, severe anxiety, weight gain, like kind of the resistant weight gain that you were talking about, and has been on a lot of diets. So it doesn't matter their diet. Like maybe they lose weight, gain it back, but at the same time, like not seeing changes that other people are seeing on similar diets. Well, that diet wasn't for that person. So this client was a little bit of a challenge because this person had a very stressful life, had a hard time implementing any protocols. Like wouldn't like, hey, how about taking a really good quality multivitamin? Couldn't even like fit that into their day because they were
Mhm.
so overwhelmed with stress. So I actually started this client on an amino acid to reduce their stress. And I think it was a Friday, they said they started actually taking this amino acid. And they said they waited till Tuesday to let me know because they didn't believe that they were having the change that they were having. They said that, a month later, they said their husband, their mother-in-law, their mother, they said people at work were asking them, like you seem different. What are you doing? And they all started looking up, like, what was this supplement, this amino acid that like this client was taking. So like that was a massive change for a client because it was just one thing that
Mhm.
changed. But it took a little while to realize, like, how do I meet this person, like where they're at? Like there's like all of these things that they could be taking, but they can't do it. And once they had gotten their stress to like a controllable level, they had more energy. And now, okay, now let me know about what foods to eat. And I can actually go to the grocery store and buy some foods and make some food that's actually healthy for me. And this person lost 17 pounds. They reduced their stress. So and then like their overall health. I think she also had quite a bit of asthma, which what didn't go away, but she said she wasn't seeing it as much, likely due to her immune system was a lot healthier. So that's like one person where I would think that like it was like one thing that
Mhm.
really changed the course of how this client.
Yeah, amazing. So, Valerie, before we finish for today, what is one thing that people should take away from this conversation? If they listen to everything, and there's a lot here. So I really do recommend that they, get in touch and consider for themselves, what is their life like, and what are the different compartments that can do with a lift or shift. But what is one thing that you would want to say to anyone listening?
Yeah, I would say that really consider that food might be impacting a lot more of your life than you thought. I had no idea that food could impact my life the way it was, and the positive way it's impacting my life now. So I want people to consider that, like, what's on the end of their fork might be what's impacting their life right now. And just because your doctor's not mentioning it, just because your doctor's not talking about like the food, they, like, for migraines, they might talk about triggers, but they're not looking at like all the things that you're doing that might be impacting. Like, just think that, like, consider that that's an option. And if you're thinking that might be, and you've tried some things and you can't really make the change you want, reach out to someone that can help. Right? Reach out to a practitioner, someone that knows the types of foods, the types of lifestyle, the types of things that might help your condition.
Amazing. Amazing. So, Valerie, thank you so much for being here today with us and for sharing your wisdom and all of these really incredible nuggets that not chicken nuggets. But thank you very much. Of course, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to write them at the bottom of this, wherever it is that you're watching this or listening to this. Of course, please do share this podcast with anyone that you think that might benefit, because this is really our mission, to spread the word that you can heal yourself naturally. And foods, we use it, we do it all the time, right? And so let's pay more attention to what we're doing. So yes, all of your information will be at the show notes of this conversation. So I encourage people to enjoy the conversation, to share it, and to come and be in touch if need be. So thank you so much, Valerie, for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.